In an age where music constantly changes, only a few rare artists manage to rise above trends and stand the test of time. Their staying power doesn't come simply from talent, but from the truth and authenticity carried in every note they sing. Bill and Gloria Gaither belonged to this rare group. Together, they shaped entire generations through the power of music. Their unwavering faith, and a commitment to something far deeper than fame or financial success, their ministry. Their songs have echoed through church walls, filled living rooms with encouragement, and walked hand in hand with people through both the hardest and holiest moments of life. But like every meaningful journey, theirs was not without challenges. And now, with recent news surrounding Gloria's health circulating, many have begun to ask an inevitable question: what lies ahead for Bill Gaither and his legacy? To answer that, we must first look back and revisit the man, the mission, and the milestone moments that turned Bill and Gloria Gaither into icons of gospel music long before the world recognized. Bill Gaither, as a gospel music legend, he was simply a young English teacher in the small town of Alexandria, Indiana. He loved literature. But beneath the rhythm of daily lesson plans and the dust of chalkboards simmered another passion: music. At that time, even Bill himself couldn't have imagined how his path was quietly shifting, moving him towards something far bigger than the classroom. It was in the hallways of Alexandria Monroe High School that fate intervened. What seemed at first like an ordinary faculty meeting would turn into a life-changing encounter. Across the staff room sat Gloria Gaither, a poised and articulate French teacher whose quiet depth drew attention more than any loud voice ever could. Gloria wasn't just another teacher, she was a scholar. A woman with a triple major in English, French, and sociology from Anderson University. Her sharp intellect blended with a thoughtful spirit, and soon enough, she and Bill discovered they shared much more than classrooms. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, spanning literature, philosophy, music, and ministry. Each dialogue felt like a duet that had existed long before they ever picked up a pen to write together. It was as if their souls were harmonizing to the same song. By 1962, this connection became permanent when Bill and Gloria married, not just as husband and wife, but as creative partners destined to transform Christian music in ways no one yet anticipated in those early years. Their lives still revolved around teaching. Bill continued with English while Gloria taught French. Yet in the evenings and on weekends, the couple sat side by side at their kitchen table, writing songs together. Balancing lesson plans with lyrical drafts wasn't easy, but there was purpose in every word and every chord. For them, teaching and songwriting were simply two different ways of shaping lives and reaching hearts. Everything changed in 1964. When Bill wrote a song called "He Touched Me," the response was immediate and overwhelming. This was no ordinary tune, it was a testimony wrapped in melody, and it resonated deeply with listeners. The small-town classroom could no longer contain the calling that was unfolding. By 1967, Bill took a leap of faith that few would dare to risk. He left the security of teaching behind, trusting that music and ministry were not just dreams, but a destiny. Gloria soon followed, and together they traded chalkboards for microphones and lesson plans for tour schedules. Alongside Bill's brother, Danny, the Bill Gaither Trio was formed. What followed was a whirlwind of performances, recordings, and an ever-growing audience. But they weren't simply entertainers, they were ministers. Their concerts blended joy with conviction, message with music. People didn't just clap. They wept, prayed, found hope through the words being sung. What made the Gaithers different wasn't just their undeniable musical talent. It was the way their songs told stories of faith, doubt, redemption, and home. Gloria's gift with words paired with Bill's instinct for melody created a combination that felt nothing short of divine. Their songs weren't preachy, yet they carried conviction. They weren't overly sentimental, yet they touched the deepest emotions. Listening to a Gaither song often felt like hearing your own soul sung back to you from their humble beginnings in Indiana classrooms 2 stages across the world. Bill and Gloria's journey became a living testament of what happens when faith meets purpose. Few songs outlive their moment, moving from melody to movement and from lyric to legacy. But the Gaithers accomplished this time and time. Again, their music wasn't confined to radio charts. It made its way into churches, hospital rooms, and family living rooms across generations. These songs became modern hymn sources of comfort, conviction, and hope. Take Because He Lives, for example. Written during a deeply uncertain time in their lives amid global turmoil, fear of the future and the birth of their son Ben, the song became their anchor. Out of anxiety and reflection came the line, "Because He lives, I can face tomorrow." That lyric wasn't just poetry. It was survival. It spread across the world, not because it was flashy, but because it was raw, real, and rooted in faith. This wasn't their only masterpiece. He Touched Me, written in 1963, remains one of Bill's most personal songs. Inspired by a simple phrase, a preacher once said, the song became a heartfelt testimony. When Elvis Presley recorded it, the song reached unprecedented heights, bringing gospel music to audiences who had never encountered it in that way before. Then came The King Is Coming, a sweeping and cinematic piece that painted a vivid picture of Christ's return. For many, it was the first time theology felt like poetry. In contrast, the simple but soul-stirring Jesus, there's something about that name showed that even the smallest phrase, when sung from the heart, could carry eternal weight. The secret to their creativity lay in their partnership. Gloria was the wordsmith, the storyteller who could capture human emotion with nuance. Bill was the composer, the one who found melodies hidden in everyday life. They weren't merely collaborators. They were conversing with one another through art. By 2012, the Gaithers had written more than 700 songs together. Staggering legacy that was less about chasing radio hits and more about touching hearts. But the Gaithers were never just songwriters. They were performers, pioneers, and visionaries. The Bill Gaither Trio laid the foundation. But soon came the Gaither Vocal Banda, a rotating group of powerhouse vocalists who elevated gospel harmonies to breathtaking new levels. Their authenticity made every performance feel less like a concert and more like worship. Then there was the Homecoming series, perhaps one of the most impactful gospel music projects ever created. These gatherings brought together legends, young and old, who sat in circles and sang the songs that had carried them through life. Bill didn't stand at the center as a celebrity, but as a curator of tradition, preserving and sharing the music that defined a movement. Behind the spotlight, Gloria was the steady force editing scripts, writing introductions, coordinating artists, and safeguarding the spiritual depth of every project. Her influence could be felt in the tone, reverence, and sincerity of every Gaither production. When you think of Bill Gaither, what usually comes to mind are melodies, harmonies, and lyrics that echo through churches and homes across the world. Yet behind the music lies something even greater. Brilliant mind that managed to bring together ministry and entrepreneurship. Bill took what began as a humble gospel mission and carefully shaped it into a thriving, multifaceted brand. What started as a simple calling gradually grew into a movement, and behind that movement was a structure, carefully built and planned, just as thoughtfully as one of their iconic songs. At the center of everything was the Gaither Music Company. This was not just a record label, it was a complete ecosystem. Gaither Studios produced countless albums and videos, all created with a level of quality that could stand alongside anything found in mainstream media. These weren't just recordings. They were powerful experiences filled with heart, hope, and excellence. Every single frame in a Homecoming video, every carefully chosen note on a live album, was crafted with care, the kind that makes music timeless. Then came the Gaither Management Group, the engine behind their unforgettable live events. This team handled bookings, logistics, talent coordination, every small detail needed to bring uplifting gospel music to stages across the country. And despite the impressive scale of their concerts, each gathering still carried an intimacy. Gaither concert never felt like a distant performance. It felt like being welcomed into their living room to worship. Together, their entrepreneurial vision didn't stop there. Through Gaither Family Resources, they expanded into retail and media. This gave fans an opportunity to connect more deeply with the message and the music. Books, devotionals, DVDs, and other resources filled this space. And each product reflected the same spiritual depth the Gaithers were known for on stage. Another vital piece was the Gaither copyright management branch, which ensured that their songs, many of which became part of the global Christian language of worship, remained under their care and protection. This wasn't only about safeguarding intellectual property. It was about protecting the integrity of the message itself. With hundreds of songs written and covered by artists around the world, such stewardship was necessary to maintain both their spiritual and artistic standards. In the 1990s, Bill Gaither took yet another bold step by co-founding Spring Hill Music Group. This new company gave them independence, allowing them to retain full creative and commercial control. With this move, they could shape not only the music, but also how it was distributed and received. At a time when many artists were completely at the mercy of corporate record labels, the Gaithers charted their own path, guided more by faith than by market trends. Their brand has always been more than just business. It has been a ministry wrapped in professionalism. What makes it so extraordinary is its consistency. Whether it's a live concert, a DVD series, a magazine issue, or even a piece of merchandise, the heart behind it remains unchanged. To encourage, uplift, and glorify God. Yet, the Gaither story has not been without sorrow. In 2001, Bill's brother, Danny Gaither, his original singing partner in the Bill Gaither trio, passed away after a long battle with illness. Danny's warm, pure tenor voice had once defined the sound of the trio and helped shape the earliest chapters of Gaither music. His passing was not just a professional loss, but also a deeply personal one. Bill lost more than a bandmate. He lost a brother, a close friend, and a co-minister in music. Then, in 2018, another painful blow struck when their sister Marianne Gaither, also an original member of the trio, passed away. Marianne had brought her own joyful spirit and humble faith to their performances. Losing both siblings, who had stood beside him in the earliest days of ministry, carved a deep ache into Bill's heart. Yet even through grief, the music did not stop. It transformed. It grew deeper, carrying new shades of hope and healing. For when the Gaithers sing about loss, they sing from lived experience. And when they write about heaven, it comes not as abstract theology, but as a longing rooted in personal grief and anchored in unshakable faith. That is why the Gaither legacy is not just built on songs, it is built on truth. Raw, beautiful, and enduring truth. Within the Gaither story, there has always been one figure whose presence, though quieter, has been deeply powerful. Gloria Gaither. While Bill often stood in the spotlight, it was Gloria's pen that carved the very soul of their ministry. She is not only a lyricist, but also a theologian, in verse a scholar, with the heart of a poet. Some outside of gospel music may overlook her, but those who truly listen know her voice, especially in written form, is one of the most profound of her generation. Gloria's academic journey was as intentional as her songwriting. In 1991, while already deeply involved in family and ministry, she earned her Master of Arts degree in British and American Literature from Ball State University. For her, this achievement was never about titles or accolades. It was about going deeper into language, meaning, and truth. That same depth shines through in her lyrics, which wrestle with real human struggles, doubt, grace, identity, suffering, and the mystery of God. She never sugarcoated the Christian walk. Instead, she honored both the valleys and the mountaintops. Over the years, Gloria authored more than 40 books, including 20 specifically written for children. Her children's works were not shallow rhymes. They carried rich spiritual truths in warm, accessible language, planting seeds of faith in young hearts. Her contributions did not go unnoticed. Gloria received 7 honorary doctorate degrees, recognition of how her writing and her intellectual spirit shaped the wider conversation about faith in both modern music and literature. While most gospel lyricists are rarely mentioned in seminaries, Gloria Gaither is a rare exception. She brought intellectual rigor to gospel songwriting without losing its emotional and spiritual heart. Her lyrics became prayers for people who couldn't find the words themselves. They mirrored the questions many were afraid to ask. And in doing so, she gave gospel music a voice that was both ancient and modern, poetic yet practical. In recent years, however, a quiet concern has grown among fans. Gloria's health has come into question. While the Gaither family has never released an official statement about her condition, her reduced presence and whispered updates have suggested a private battle. What this means for the future remains uncertain. Yet the love and prayers poured out from fans around the world speak louder than words. For many, Gloria's influence is not just a distant story. Her words have guided them through seasons of grief, doubt, and renewal. And now, they return their prayers and love to the one who once held theirs through her songs. This naturally leads to a difficult question. Are we nearing the end of the Gaither era? Bill Gaither has not announced retirement, nor has there been a farewell tour. Yet the signs are quietly there: fewer public appearances, fewer homecoming productions. Now in his late 80s, Bill often reflects more on family and cherishing the time that remains than on constant touring. The energy that once fueled countless concerts and projects has softened. His passion is still strong, but it is now more tender. More rooted in memory than momentum, it does not feel like a sudden goodbye, but more like a gentle fade into a quieter season, like a sunset glowing with beauty and peace. And maybe that is how it should be. Not with abrupt endings, but with a final chorus that lingers in the air. Still, whether or not Bill and Gloria ever create another song or book, their legacy is already eternal. Their music, their words, and their ministry have become part of the spiritual DNA of millions of lives. The Gaither story is not closing, it is echoing. It lives on in church choirs, in living rooms where families gather to worship, and in cars where someone presses play and finds strength in because he lives. The Gaithers never wrote songs just for the sake of music. They wrote testimonies. Their influence transcended denominations, generations, and even genres. They are credited with keeping Southern gospel alive during seasons when it seemed to fade from the mainstream. But they did even more than that. They modernized it, giving it warmth, depth, and universal appeal. From Elvis Presley to small-town church choirs, their songs have been sung in stadiums, sanctuaries, and living rooms alike. For countless people, these songs became the soundtrack to life's biggest moments: births, weddings, funerals, baptisms, and late-night cries for peace. In a world often obsessed with fame and trends, the Gaithers stand as a reminder of the power of faithful consistency. They did not chase popularity, they created timeless work. They didn't just talk about God, they invited people into a real, lived experience of grace. Even now, as they face health challenges and the realities of aging, they continue to walk with humility, grace, and unwavering faith. They are not merely musicians. They are ministers, mentors, and messengers. And whether or not Bill Gaither ever officially says goodbye, his impact is eternal. His music will continue to comfort, challenge, and inspire. Gloria, his lifelong partner in both rhyme and life, will forever remain part of that melody if you grew up listening to the Gaithers. Or if your life has ever been touched by one of their songs, now is the time to celebrate their legacy. Because their music will never fade, it will continue echoing for generations to come. The beauty of the Gaither story is that it reminds us of something timeless, that music is never just about sound. For Bill and Gloria, it has always been about connection, about faith, about giving people a glimpse of something higher than themselves. Their songs became vessels of hope, carriers of comfort, and bridges between people who might otherwise never have met. Generations have grown up with their music as a constant. Backdrop. Parents introduce their children to Gaither songs, and now those same children introduce them to their own families. In this way, the Gaither legacy is not just preserved, it multiplies. Their music doesn't belong to one era or one audience. It belongs to everyone who has ever needed encouragement or a reminder that God is near. Even outside the traditional gospel community, Gaither's influence can be felt. Country artists, choirs in small towns, international singers, and even mainstream performers have drawn from their work. That is the power of truth wrapped in song. It travels beyond boundaries. Whether sung in a grand cathedral or whispered in a quiet hospital room, their words have carried strength when people needed it most. Perhaps this is why, even as Bill and Gloria step into a quieter season of life, the movement they created shows no signs of fading. Their music continues to be recorded, reimagined, and sung by new voices. Their videos and books still find their way into homes, and their legacy, much like the faith they sing about, proves to be enduring, passed from one generation to the next. So, are we nearing the end of the Gaither era? Maybe in one sense, the era of constant tours, new albums every year, and regular appearances on stage may be winding down. But in a deeper sense, the Gaither era can never truly end. It is etched into the hearts of millions who have been touched by their work. One day, when the final curtain does fall, and the last concert fades into memory, the songs will still live on. They will continue to be sung in churches, echoed in living rooms, and carried in the hearts of those who lean on them for strength. Bill and Gloria Gaither's life work is not just music, it is ministry, memory, and message. It is a gift to the world, one that will continue long after they are gone.